AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
When you need a roof, call someone you know. Moscona, Ontario.
All you need is HUDCO.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar, ESPN Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Alexandria. The Riot Radio Hour with Ryan Terrio and Matt Moscona, presented by Bowie Outfitters.
You're so stupid. Why would you do that to him?
Crank it a little bit, Noose.
Oh, God.
That's my favorite part right there. I love that. Roofing.
3, 6, 4.
You're going to get us in trouble. Why don't you introduce our next guest? I'll turn it over to you to do that.
Oh, man. Fired up to have this guy on. He's one of my favorite people in the world. Actually befriended my guy, Bus Cook, probably 5 or 6 years ago. Started doing some work together, sending some athletes over to Traction. And we just really hit it off. When Traction built their facility in Hattiesburg, got a little bit closer and obviously knew and admired Bus from afar. And so we're fired up to have him on and talk a little bit today. So, Bus, appreciate you coming on for a few minutes with us.
Well, it's good to be with you. And I'm still looking for one of those things like you've got, Ryan.
What's that, a roof? We can get you a roof.
Well, I'm looking for a job. I need one like you got.
No, I don't think you want one like I got. But I do want to talk at some point. I would like to ask you about that lake and those people that were sneaking in on it, maybe at the end of the conversation. But I appreciate
you can't have inside jokes, so he's got to tell the story.
Oh, yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
But you're talking about lake and rain and all that stuff for roofs and all that reminded me back in the day when Favre was playing in Green Bay and they were playing on a Thursday night. It may have been a preseason game against the Titans. And anyway, it came to a humongous storm, and they had like 70,000 fans in the stadium. And so there was over a 2.5-hour delay. They go back out on the field, and then the referee say, well, we're at the 2-minute warning, which made everybody laugh. Well, they go back out for the second half, and I changed the head coach, and he was at Darryl Bevel, and he said, where's Favre? I said, well, I don't know where he is. You know where he was? He was in Hattiesburg.
Oh, he left. He went home.
He went home. So good.
He thought the game had been called off. He just came home. I don't think he's going to play that game anyway. I think it's a preseason, but he decided he was coming. He had a brain waiting, and of course the coach wasn't very happy with him.
Buzz Cook is our guest. BC Sports. Of course, he's represented some of the biggest names in sports, from Brett Favre to Calvin Johnson, Cam Newton, Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, of course, former number 1 overall pick. A bunch of LSU guys as well: Mo Claiborne, Dante Jackson, Damian Lewis, Patrick Queen, and the like. Buzz, I'm just curious, man. So much experience that you've had over the years, and then you look at this sort of brave new world of NIL and what it means for the current college athletes. What's the biggest difference you've noticed just in the profession of guys transitioning from college to pro, in albeit a very short amount of time here at the NIL, but how has it impacted things from your point of view?
Well, the NIL is new since July 1, and when the Supreme Court, basically ruled student athletes have a right to make money off their name, image and likeness, in which they do, and it's a good thing, but it has to have some kind of a monitoring system. I think they need a national law, because some states don't even have a law concerning the NIL stuff. And, some of the guys are getting great deals, which is awesome for those players. Some guys don't get anything. I read the other day where Sam's is giving $10,000 scholarships away to people named Sam if they can tell them why they should win a scholarship.
That's pretty good.
I mean, it is, but is that really fair to all the other student athletes? And then there's you might get somebody wanting to give all the girls a $500 fee if they'll do this. I was reading where Ole Miss has got something with a blue jean company where if the football team will come in and post something on social media once a month or once a week, I think, for the until January, they'll give them a $450 pair of jeans. How is that fair to the other student athletes that aren't football players? I don't know, but I do know that there's some legislation that trying to declare that these student athletes are not student athletes at all, that they're really employees of the universities, and as such, they ought to be protected as if they had a union or something to that effect. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next year, 2 years, with all the legislation and stuff that's going to come about.
I definitely think a union is probably coming pretty quick, and it's going to have to, Bus, because of the points you just made. Let me ask you this, though. How do you think this affects the actual play on the field, if any?
Well, I don't know. I'm not, waiting to see. I know there was one student athlete this year, one of the first that came out and posted, "Hey, I've just signed this deal, and I'm going to make all of this money." And that particular player, his team hadn't done well. They were a top 5 team, maybe top 10, but he hadn't played well. And I'm sure that what's going to happen, people are going to say, well, if he'd have paid more attention to football than his off-the-field endorsements, then he might not be playing at the level he's playing yet. He might be playing better. I know there's in the NFL, I know that there's one situation involving a very high draft pick. And for the first couple of years, the guy was in the league, saying, well, you got more commercials than you got touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And so, but when you're playing well, it's okay. But when you're not playing well, then it come back to haunt you a little bit with, people are going to say, well, you need to focus more on football than on off the field stuff. So is it going to alienate any of your teammates? Possibly. The income from it, there's a bill right now. I think it's either been proposed or it's going to be proposed in the Senate, in the U.S. Senate, that will make any income that the student athlete earns over $20,000, then it will make his scholarship count as ordinary income, to which you'd have to pay taxes on it. Oh, wow. I don't think that will fly, but it's a bill that's being proposed. And so I think it's a senator out of North Carolina that's doing it. But still, it's just overall, it's good for the athlete, but it's got to have some controls over it. It's, NFL's the same. I mean, you've got your marquee players making, all the big money and stuff, but you still have group licensing where, as a group, teams, guys can get paid some amount of money. And so it's good if you could spread it out a little bit amongst some of the players and stuff so that everybody feels like, we're part of it, So, but it's so new. I just think it's going to it's going to take a little bit of time to figure it all out. And, and now you get, guys, agents and people that, doing things for kids. Is there an amount that, it should be limited to? I mean, you see where, Coach Saban came out, said he has his quarterback made over $1 million.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good recruiting tool.
Yeah.
And
so they lose the Ole Miss.
And that with the transfer rule, I mean, you find a good player at a school it's not Alabama or any other, Division I school, and get some kid that's, is a very, very good player. Well, why wouldn't he transfer to that new school where he can make money off of his name, image, or likeness, and where he can transfer without having to sit out? It's gonna hurt a lot of the small schools, I think. So,
Bus Cook is our guest. Bus, I'm also curious, just from the NFL's perspective. There's a lot of guys, and we saw a little bit of this in last year's draft, where with the opt-outs. Is there a general view that the NFL has on players that that elect to opt out and to not play?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the team as to what their philosophy is. If you don't want to play, you don't want to play. We can't say anything because of the rules regarding COVID and stuff. So I'm just not sure that I don't think there's a general policy or a general feeling about players if you opt out because of safety concerns or whatever that somebody's going to hold that against you. But there may be some organizations that say, well, we are going to hold it against you because we don't think we're paying you all this money to the so I don't know.
How would you advise a client or a student athlete if they were COVID or not? I mean, I think we're moving into this realm in college football where some high profile guys are going to choose not to play and not risk injury. What kind of conversation would you have with a client?
I think the NFL, in a lot of cases, would view that as being okay. We understand why you're doing it, but are you really going to quit on your teammates? Are you going to really do that? Are you really so convinced that you're going to be that top pick that's that you're going to sit down now and not play? I think it happened. Maybe it was a player last year. I don't know where he got drafted, but I'm sure it's. Some coaches are going to look at it and say, some teams, do you really love the game? Do you really love to compete, or are you just wanting the money? And are you just trying to protect that interest if that interest exists for you to be that top pick? And, if you fall one slot, from third to fourth, that's a lot of money. And, but some teams will not, they'll think, well, if you're going to quit on your teammates now, we could quit on them fourth quarter of the Super Bowl because your contract's not done or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That some people would look at it that way, and some people are going to say, I don't blame him that he's that good. Why should he, play and run the risk of injury? But again, it's I don't know what it would have to depend on each particular case, which situation. I don't know if you're the starting quarterback that you would do that. I don't think I haven't seen anybody, do that. That's really the team leader. But sometimes agents advise these guys, hey, look, man, there's no sense in you going out there and taking a chance and getting hurt and whatever. So,
okay, on to the real stuff though. So tell me about this lake, and have you had any more? Have you had any more trespassers? What's going on there?
Well,
Bus, why do you hang out with this guy? Why would you be friends with this guy?
I'm sitting here looking at the lake right now, my pond. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I guess I can tell what happened. This fellow built a pond out on his property, and he put in some fruit trees down at the end of the pond and some picnic tables, and he hadn't been down there in several weeks, so he decided to go pick some fruit. He took a 5-gallon bucket and went down picking some fruit, and he heard all this noise coming from his pond, and he looked, and there were several girls in there skinny dipping. Well, as he got closer, the girls saw him, and they scurried down to the deep end, and the girl said, fella, if you think you're going to get us out of this pond so you can see us, you're wrong. And old man, he really thought real quick. He said, girl, I didn't even know y'all were down here. I just came down here to feed my alligator.
Buzz, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you for spending a couple of minutes with us today. Have a great weekend, man.
Talk to you soon.
Guys.
Yeah, talk to you,
Thank
Buzz.
y'all.
Okay, buddy.
It's our pleasure, Buzz Cook.
He's great.